We talk about how to be a good church, and I had people have asked me this, even when I was interviewing, the search committee was asking me questions, and people have asked me questions I've been here, and how do we grow, how do we become a better church? And I told them, I was like, if I had that answer, the answer, if I had the magic pill or the silver bullet, I could make billions of dollars if I had to answer how to make a church grow. But the one thing I do know, at least from Scripture's point of view, is that there's some ways we can be a good church. And I think if we're a good church, in some ways that will help us to grow spiritually as disciples, but maybe grow in number as well. So last week we talked about some ways to be a good church. Well, here's part 2 of how to be a good church. Now we could go to a lot of different places in the Bible, try to figure out some ways to be a good church, but I figured, the book of Acts, a lot of it focuses on the acts of the Holy Spirit in the early church. And there's some clues, some things in there that I think that we need to practice as far as trying to be a good church. Now keep in mind, we can try to be a good church, but one of the things I'll remind you of today is that if you find the perfect church, or a church you think is the perfect church, you need to wake up. You're sleeping, you're dreaming, right? There is no such thing as a perfect church. There's no such thing. You might be in fantasy land if you find one, because it ain't real. God has chosen imperfect people to be His church. And if you think you're perfect, I love you, God bless you, but you ain't. There's only one perfect person in this building, and that's my wife. I said it. I wouldn't give him a big head. He has to go home with you. I ain't going to give him a big head. Now you ask Chandler, she'll tell you that most times I act like I'm perfect. I'm close. I'm really close. No, I'm not. I'm the least perfect person you'll ever meet. But what are some ways that we need to be, some things that we need to do to be a good church? Last week we talked about some various ideas. Here's some more ideas for you. We're going to look at Acts chapter 13. Look at the church at Antioch. A very pivotal church in the beginnings of the Christianity here. Now in the church at Antioch there were prophets and teachers. Barnabas, Simeon called Niger, Lucius of Cyrene, Manaen, who was brought up with Herod the Tetrarch, and Saul. While they were worshiping the Lord and fasting, the Holy Spirit said, "Set apart for me Barnabas and Saul to the work which I have called them." So after they had fasted and prayed, they placed their hands on them and sent them off. 2 of them, sent on their way by the Holy Spirit, went down to Seleucia and sailed from there to Cyprus. So there's, you read that text like, well, now preacher, what are we going to glean from this? What's going on in this text? Well, of course, these are prophets and teachers in the early church. There's some things we can glean from this. First off, let's think about this. That the people of the church, the individuals that make up the church, now we may think of the church being the building, but really we as people, God's Christians, God's people are the church. The people of the church can be both a blessing and a hindrance. Well, the best things that ever happened was God using people. But one of the worst things that ever happened was God using people. It's a blessing and a hindrance. People can be selfish and contentious, can't we? Don't look around. Y'all are tempted to look around. If you know somebody like that, you might have to look in the mirror, right? Which, by the way, every church has times where they fuss and they fight. As we've talked about on Wednesday nights through Baptist history, Baptists are a bunch that fuss and fight and argue over things because we want it our way. But churches can be filled with people who are contentious and selfish. But a good church has people from diverse backgrounds working together for God. Think about it. If you were to go out and ask somebody, say for example, I was down at the Bojangles this morning, and ran into some people that were on their way to church. I can tell, I talked to them, I knew they were on their way to church. And I saw some people that had Panthers shirts, and Panthers shorts, and Panthers hats, and Panthers paint on their face. They were going to the game. They weren't going to church. And I ran into people, teenagers or kids, in ball uniforms, they were going to a travel ball game. And you run their average people, you really can't tell the difference in maybe going to church, maybe not. I bet you if you were to ask most of those people in that church, what do you think about church? Why aren't you going to church? And usually the response I get when I ask people about that, well, those bunch of hypocrites, those bunch of people, all they do is they fuss and they fight, they argue. Now, whether that's true or not, most times, a lot of churches have a reputation. Sometimes, if the shoe fits, you got to wear it. And I've mentioned this to y'all before. As your pastor, I've visited some people, and in this community, some people, whether good or bad, or right or wrong, have given this church a reputation of being a church of arguing and complaining and groaning and moaning. But the thing is, I bet you about every church has a reputation too. Like I said, whether for good or for bad. So one of the worst things that God can ever do is to call His people, or use people in His work. One of the best things He could ever do is to use people. Notice in this passage, God calls prophets and teachers like Barnabas, the encouragement guy, son of encouragement, and Simeon, whose name is Niger, who's called Niger's nickname. Now, the nickname Niger means black in Latin. Simeon might have been a fellow of dark skin. It might not have been like most of the Jewish people in the early church. But by the name Simeon, he may have either been a convert or born Jewish, to a Jewish context. Lucius Cyrene, a North African country. He wasn't from around Antioch. He was a transplant. Manaen, or the Jewish name Menahem, probably Jewish. But notice the little caveat in parentheses there, who had been brought up with Herod the Tetrarch. Now, he was raised up, maybe wet nursed, or raised in the same bunch of kids as Herod Antipas, the one who had John the Baptist killed, and the one who had a hand in Jesus being crucified. So this guy, Manaen, may have come from Medes, and he probably knew the bad guy, Herod Antipas. This is a diverse collection of people already. You got good guys, bad guys, culturally diverse. Then you got Saul. Who was Saul? Well, he was raised up, a good Pharisee of Pharisees, but he was also a persecutor of the church. Had a Damascus Road experience and scales over his eyes, and why do you kick against the pricks? The Lord asked him, God called him into service. So you got this motley crew, if you will, of people that God is using to lead this early church. Now think about this. All of us in this church come from various different backgrounds. Some of us, or some of the people in this church, are lifelong Dallas people. Never lived anywhere else. Came up through the old Dallas High School, North Castle, whatever, you're a Dallas person. Some of us are transplants. Some of us ain't from around here. Some of us aren't from this state. Some of us weren't even raised Baptist. Some of us, we don't know where you're from. Some of us are somewhere, right? Maybe Mars, who knows? But we all come from different walks of life. We come from different socioeconomic classes. We have come from different job backgrounds, different education backgrounds. But God has put us here together for a reason. To do His work. To serve Him. God put together a collection of individuals to lead the church at Antioch. I'm sure a diverse group of Christians in that whole church congregation. Everywhere. They work together to serve God. But the thing is, like I mentioned, we have moments where we're good and we're bad for God's kingdom. I found a statistic, this little meme, I think I got it from I forget the name of the website, but it's actually, some stats are from churchgrowth.org. And it says, how do people start attending a church? A friend invited me, 86%. Organized visitation, 6%. Invited by a pastor, 6%. Advertising, 2%. Now, of those statistics, notice which one of those things is over the 10% threshold. The only one, a friend invited me to church, 86%. Most people don't come to church because of a new fancy sign or because of some web page or Facebook. Now, it may happen. Most people don't come to church because I go visit with them or talk to them. That may happen. But most people come to church because average Joes and Sallys, or whoever you are, said, hey, will you come to church with me? Now, it may not be the first time you ask somebody. You may have to bug them to death. Hopefully you're not going to bug them to death. But just bug them, ask them, invite somebody to church, and more than likely somebody's going to try to come to church. You see, the good thing about a church is God uses us. Building relationships with others through individuals is a good way to help a church grow, to be a good church. Things like small groups or Sunday school groups are a great way to build a church spiritually, as disciples, but also number-wise. Those connections that we make with individuals. You see, one of the things I'm seeing in some of these sociological studies and these stats about millennials and Generation Z especially is, even though they're the most plugged in as far as social media, these younger groups, they're the ones that are most craving social interaction. Personal touch. Think about it. You know, the business world today, there's some places that are emphasizing their customer service. I work for a grocery store chain that their big selling point was not their lowest prices. They did some low prices on some stuff, trust me, I still shop there. But their big selling point was customer service. Now, whether they got it right or wrong all the time, if I was working, I'm usually bad in customer service. But they emphasize the customer service aspect of it, the people touch of it. You're not dealing with a machine. You don't have to hunt around the whole store to find somebody to help you. You've got somebody there. You see, the good thing about a church is, at least one of the good things could be, is us. Making connections with people. Investing ourselves in their lives. One of the things I mentioned at the deacons meeting in our little training session I do, and I want to emphasize to some degree on a sermon in October is that we need to invest in the lives of people, especially in a mentor relationship type of thing. Younger Christians, non-Christians, invest in them in our time and our efforts to help lead them to Christ. We're helping get them back in church. We're helping them mature in the faith. Those personal connections are key. Even something as simple as being a greeter, saying hello to someone, can make a huge difference. Now, we don't get it right all the time at this church. We're not perfect. But I think we're a very friendly church in some ways. I think we have a lot of potential. We're good people. That's a good thing. But conversely, I'm the world's worst list of chanting to tell you this. I love saying good things, but the next breath I'll say, but a good church has people. Good people. But the problem with people is that we can be bad. Fussing, the fighting, the arguing, the bickering, the stubbornness. We bring all that stuff to bear, don't we? I found a cute little video. It's a church video, and you'll recognize probably some of the actresses in it. But let me talk about it after. So let's see.
Well, Julie, Eunice, and I are so glad you could join our prayer group. Lord knows we need prayer now more than ever.
Amen, sister. Barbara and I just love to lift the needs of others up in prayer.
Well, I appreciate your invitation.
Well, enough of this chitter chatter. We got to get this show on the road. Now, I don't know if you've heard, but the Hendersons are in real need of prayer. Tom Henderson lost his job.
Did you see Tom Jr.'s haircut the other day?
It looked like a porcupine on Red Bull. I hear Tom Sr. spends all day on the computer looking at the internet, watching videos on the YouTube.
That's probably why he got fired.
Oh, no. His boss caught him on the surveillance camera playing Texas Hold'em.
Hold them accountable, I say. I mean, it's one thing for housewives like us to have hobbies, but he's a man of the church. He has a family. He should know better. You know, I would like to lift up Verna Carlson. She has not been feeling very well.
What's wrong with her?
Well, I heard it was her weight, 5 pounds in 1 week.
More like 15. Someone needs to tell her that eating ice cream will not save her demonic children.
Oh, don't we know it? That little Jeffrey almost ruined the service the other day. Singing at the top of his lungs for all the world to hear.
That's so wrong.
I have a prayer request. the Woodmans are going back to Peru for a month to build houses.
Oh, they worked so hard over there in that poor country. That's a good prayer
They're
request.
such a nice couple. And her apple pie was the hit of the bake sale.
Oh, yeah, but what about that V-neck sweater? I mean, if it had been any lower, well, I just didn't think that it was becoming.
I noticed that too. I didn't want to say it.
And let's not forget the dress that she wore last Easter.
I noticed that too. I didn't want to say anything.
I have another prayer request for us because we're just sitting here gossiping, and I was thinking that, you know, we shouldn't be tearing down our brothers and sisters. We should be edifying them and lifting them up. So we should probably pray for ourselves.
Well, I guess you're right. We should know better. Yes, we should.
No, I do it too. I mean, last week at the picnic, I told everybody that Betty's son was going to jail, and I found out he's going to Yale.
Well, I don't know what happened to us.
You know who's really bad at gossip?
Who?
Now, how many of y'all are gossips? You don't have to raise your hand. I've done it too. You know, things like that are some of the bad things about having people in church, isn't it? We like to gossip. We like to tell stories. We need to stop doing that. If we're going to be a good church, we'll stop doing it. If we're going to be a good church, we have to stop arguing or bickering or gossiping. Be a loving Christian family, edifying our brothers and sisters. Is it going to be easy? No, it ain't going to be easy. We're stuck in our ways, aren't we? We're going to have to do it. Every church needs to do it. But, where's the cute little video, huh? The second thing I've noticed about a good church, at least in as far as the text we see here in Acts, is that the church at Antioch was a good church in that they sought God's direction and prioritized Him. I mentioned a little bit about this last Sunday, but notice this church, they prayed, they fasted, they sought God. These acts of seeking God's direction in this text of submission were done before God even identified Barnabas and Saul as missionaries, before those two were commissioned for service. Let's look over here in verse 2 here. It says they were worshiping the Lord and they were fasting. Put the emphasis on God, not themselves. And after they were worshiping, or while they were worshiping and fasting, while they were seeking God, the Holy Spirit spoke to them to set apart those two individuals. You see, instead of gossiping and causing trouble, what we need to do is seek God. Find Him. And that may take acts of worship, moments of submission, fasting. You ever tried to fast before? I'm not very good at it. I've done things like 30-hour famine and things like that. I've even tried personally to fast, for some meals for a day to try to seek God's direction. It takes dedication. It takes discipline. It takes focus on God, not ourselves. I'm not saying y'all go out and fast and skip meals and, go live out in the desert like a hermit, like some people did in the early church. But we need to seek God's direction. We need to go to Him. And it may take us putting our ego and putting ourselves in the background. It may take something like fasting, or maybe fasting from food, or fasting from TV, or maybe in my case, fasting from social media. It may take something to get us to focus on God. One of the hardest things I've seen or saw in the last church I served, and I did youth ministry mainly, was we went to a retreat in South Mountain Baptist Camp. There wasn't really any cell phone service anyway, but I collected, it was an overnight thing, I collected all the cell phones from the teenagers. Put them in a box, put them on top of the fridge in there, and they weren't to touch them. So they were cell phoneless for, I'd say, at least a good 15, 20 hours, maybe somewhere around there. I forget how long it was. But that was a fast for them. So they had to interact with people, fellowship with their brothers and sisters in Christ. Now, y'all's addiction may not be the smartphones or cell phones, but your things keeping you from God and focusing on God may be other things. Maybe it's food in my case. Maybe it's TV. Maybe it's gossip. Maybe it's our own self-centeredness. I don't know what it is, but we need to focus and be disciplined in seeking God. While the early church in Antioch was focusing on God, God showed them something they could do. Set apart Barnabas and Saul for service. And notice another thing they did too is after they fasted and they prayed, they placed hands on him. We talked about prayer last week. Prayer again is putting the emphasis on God and focusing on Him and not on us. You know, we definitely live in a society where it's all about the me, me, me. As I mentioned to y'all before, if you remember, I had a teacher in 8th grade. He had a big old sign in his classroom, and I'll never forget it. I'll remember it to the day I die. It said, "This isn't Burger King. You can't have it your way." Dallas Baptist is not Burger King. We don't have tacos here. We don't have chicken nuggets most days. You can't have it your way. This is God's house. We are God's people. It's about Him, not about us. We should be prayerfully seeking Him. If it takes something like fasting, we need to do that. But we have to focus on God. Ourselves. We're so narcissistic, our society. Especially in this age of social media and the internet, it's all about the me, all about what I want. And our gossip too. But a third characteristic of the church at Antioch, a good church, is the church at Antioch was a good church because they weren't afraid to go outside the church building to do ministry. Look at verse 4. The two of them, Paul and Barnabas, were sent all their way by the Holy Spirit, went down Seleucia and Cilicia from Cyprus. They went outside the walls of whatever church building they had, maybe a house church. They went outside to do missions, to do ministry. If we think that church should be kept in these walls, behind the stained glass on Sunday, and that's it, you're doing it wrong. We need to be the church out in our community, out in Dallas. Giving hope to our community, to a community that is broken and hurting. I mean, the Dallas High Shoals ministry, their numbers are increasingly high on who they're serving because our community is broken and needing something different. They need hope. This world, the politicians, the big wigs of industry, they're not giving people hope. Only Jesus Christ can give hope. And we need to be the ones telling them about this hope. So while things done inside these walls, inside Huggins Hall, the activity building, they're important, what we do as God's people out in this community is even more so important. See, the early church sent missionaries to go out. We need to go out beyond these walls to minister to those who are hurting. I mentioned this before. Gone are the days where you build a church and people come in. People aren't just going to randomly come into church. We have to go out. We have to invite them. We have to tell them, to beg them, to plead with them sometimes. Come. Remember the 86% I showed you on the earlier slide? Inviting somebody to church is going out doing ministry. It's going out saying, hey. Now, if you build up a reputation with someone through showing them how, modeling Christ's love, I guess you could say, and you invite them to church, they're more likely to come than you being the world's biggest horses patootie, being a jerk to them than asking the church. There have been some people like that. I've seen it happen before, that being just un-Christ-like and asking somebody to church. But if others see Jesus in you, they're more likely to be responsive to your request. But we have to go out and to go to the schools, to go to the Dallas High Shoals ministry, go out into the soup kitchens and the places that need Jesus, to maybe knock on a door or two if we have to go visit those in the rest homes and the hospitals, to go out and to share God's love and God's hope in our community. We can't do what needs to be done just inside these walls. We have to go. We have to go out.
And Jesus said to His disciples, "Go into all the world and proclaim the gospel to the whole creation." Proclaim not just to His sons, but to His beloved daughters. Not just the privileged few, but to the entire human race. To the whole creation. to all the colors and creeds, for God so loved all of us. How then can one daughter be more worthy than another? One son be more deserving than his brother? One color be more beautiful than all the rest? For it is written that no one can number his children. They will come from every nation. They will come from all tribes. They will speak all languages. And with their mouths they will sing, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. Therefore, we are all created in his image, not just a certain few. We are all adopted. None of us are his by birth. And we all must find the way, the truth, and the life. We all need Jesus. Jesus the martyr. Jesus the poor man. Jesus the prisoner. Jesus the teacher. Jesus the prophet. Jesus the resurrected. Jesus the first and the last. He is the creator of diversity, the author of equality, the defender of the defenseless, the one who breaks the chains of slavery, the one who continues to fight for freedom. He is the Messiah. He is the risen King. He is our only hope. Jesus, the Savior of the world. Jesus, the one who died for all.
To be a good church, it's going to take us, his people, being his people. It's going to take submission to God. It's going to take prayer, fasting, amen. It's going to take us going out. To give you a bit of an object lesson. Got two things in my hand. DJ, follow me if you will. I'll step down here. Got two things in my hands. Which ironically, I got this wallet at Hammocks last time I went on a trip. It was live members to Hammocks. Ain't much in here, trust me. I've got a watch. And I've got a wallet. It's going to take our time. We have to invest our time into making this church a good church. We have to invest our time in God to be good Christians. But we have to invest our time to make this church a good church. Our time and our labors. It's going to take some money. It's going to take us tithe. Give God what is God's. It's going to take a little bit more than just our tithe. It's going to take our offering. But it's also going to take our hard work. Are you willing to give your time, your money, your hard work, and everything to God to make this church what it needs to be? To make God's kingdom what it needs to be in Dallas? There are people hurting that need Jesus. It's going to take us. It's going to take us, like I mentioned last week, not being full of ourselves, but being full of him. So are you willing to give of yourself for him? Are you? Ball's in your court. Time of invitation is coming here in a moment as musicians come. Maybe you'd like to pray. Maybe you need to give it all to Jesus. Maybe you need to lay something down at his feet to put that burden aside. Maybe you need to give more of your time. Maybe more of your money. Maybe more of your hard work. Maybe you need to put your ego and lay it down here at the altar and give it to him. Ball's in your